Okay, fine. So, uh, good morning to everyone. So my screen is clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
So today what we are going to do is we are going to do some discussion on e-mobility and solar PV. Okay. So now the issue is that we in India are going to give a big thirst to the e-mobility. So if we say that we are going to give a big thirst to e-mobility, it means that we have quite a bit of ambitious plan to have large number of EVs on the road in the coming decade. But now the question comes that are the EVs really going to help us to mitigate the climate change, to mitigate the emissions from the vehicles, or that is not the case? So that's a big question, and it's also discussed to a large extent in the coursework as well. Now to do that, what we do is we will first have a look at the concept of e-mobility that we plan to have. Okay, so now the e-mobility actually hinges upon two very important parameters. So one is the intelligent infrastructure and the other one is the grid support. So now when we say the intelligent infrastructure, that actually includes all kinds of charging. So we would like to charge our EVs at home. We would like to charge the EVs at workplace. We would like to charge the EVs at commercial places. For example, if you go for some shopping or to some mall, then you would be there for at least 2-3 hours. So if your parking lot has a chance for charging the EVs, then you would like to use that. Also, we would like to have charging at public places. So maybe let's say you went to a park or you went to a zoo or some other public place, then you would like to have the charging there as well. So these are the various kinds of charging that the people would like to have to ensure that there is no range anxiety. So if you have charging which is available everywhere, then the range anxiety won't be there. You know that whenever I run low on SOC or on the charge of the battery, then I can charge wherever I want, and that would be a very convenient thing to do. So now to support this kind of a charging, which is pervasive and is present everywhere, for that uh, we would be needing a lot of electricity support. Okay, so a grid support is essential. Now, once we talk about grid support, then comes the next question that what kind of grid are we looking at? So actually a big study by the erstwhile Planning Commission and even now the present Niti Aayog also did this study. They looked into different 11 possibilities of generation, power generation in India. Okay. Now, you can go to the old website of Planning Commission and also the website of Niti Aayog, and you can find out that document about the 11 possibilities of power generation. And now if you see here, 11 scenarios are given. Okay, this is for what India might have in 2031, 32. So maybe 11 to 12 years from now. And if you see the scenario one, okay, so scenario one has 50% coal generation. So that is the worst case scenario. And the best case scenario is scenario 11, where we have 30% coal generation. And between 1 and 11, you have various other mixes of the fuel, like you have oil, gas, coal, hydro, nuclear, and renewable. Okay. So depending on how the country might have different fuel mix, or we call as fuel alloy, this would give you the percentage of contribution of different kind of fuels to generate electricity in India up to 2031, 32. And based on these kind of fuel mixes and based on the efficiencies of various types of power plants and also the fuels that are being used in the power plants, it was estimated that how much CO2 would be emitted to generate 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. So now we see here the scenario one has maximum coal generation 50%. I think I would request everyone to mute their microphones if they don't have to ask the question. Otherwise, there is a lot of background noise. I request everyone to switch off the microphone. So now, what happened here was that scenario one has 50% of coal generation, and because of that, the emission of CO2 per kilowatt of generation is the maximum. whereas scenario 11, okay, that has the least coal generation, around 30%, and the emission to generate 1 kilowatt hour of electricity is very low there. It's around 467 grams per kilowatt hour. So this gives you an idea that how much will we be polluting to produce 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. Now, if I would go into the details of an electric vehicle, okay, and also the typical combustion engine vehicle. So let's look at the drivetrain of a typical combustion engine vehicle. And here in the figure, you see the various kinds of losses that would happen. Okay, so whenever you move a vehicle, you would have some standby or idle losses. That means once the vehicle is standing at the traffic light, you would be idling. Clear? And then you would have the losses in the accessories. So when you have, say, the onboard electronics on, and then you have some music system on, so these are the accessories, they consume power. Then there are driveline losses, so you have the gears, the drive shaft, the clutch mechanism, the differential gears, so all these have their own losses. Okay, then when you move the vehicle, you have to overcome the air friction, so that comes under aerodynamic loss. Then you have to overcome the rolling friction when the tire rolls on the road surface, and you have the friction, so you have to overcome that. And there would be very frequent braking if you are driving in the city condition. Okay, so there would be losses. So these are all the losses that happen when you drive a vehicle. So once you add up all these losses, then you see that if you burn a liter of petrol or a diesel, then the majority of that goes into the losses. Okay, and a small fraction of that is actually converted into motion. So same thing also happens for our EV drivetrain. So when you have an EV drivetrain, so instead of an internal combustion engine, you would have an electrical system. So here you would have the converters, which might have an efficiency of anywhere between 90 to 92%. Okay, then the electric motor, which would have an efficiency anywhere between 80 to 90%. So we have taken an average of around 85%. Then you would have the energy source, which is the battery. So if a battery has 1 kilowatt hour of energy in it, you can't extract all the 1 kilowatt hour energy. You will extract less than that. So it would have its own cyclic efficiency. Plus you will have the energy refueling unit, which is the charging unit. Okay, so that will have its own efficiency around 90 to 95%. So these are all the efficiencies which are involved in an electrical system. Now if we put all the numbers together, okay, so if you put the numbers of the EV and also the uh, if you put the numbers of the EV and the conventional vehicles together, then the scenario that we get is not really a very happy scenario. So what we get here is that if you have a tank to wheel, okay, this is from 2012, the analysis, and today also it hasn't changed much. So if you have a petrol vehicle, okay, then if you drive 1 kilometer, you would be emitting around 122 grams of CO2. And if you have a diesel vehicle, you would be emitting a bit more than that, around 170 grams of CO2 per kilometer. Same way you have for CNG. Then you would have hybrid electric vehicles, which are now gradually coming into India. So the most famous one is the Toyota Prius. Okay, so if you have a vehicle of a Toyota Prius category, then you would be emitting around 122 grams of CO2 per kilometer of driving. Similarly, if you have plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, so the advantage of plug-in hybrid electric vehicle is that you can drive around 20-25 kilometers exclusively on electrical energy, and then the hybrid mode starts. Okay, so that's the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. And in case of plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, you can have actually an emission of around 115 grams per kilometer. And then finally you have EVs, which would be emitting around 151 grams per kilometer, and that was the scenario in 2012 in India. And today also it's not much, because we have a coal dominated grid. So as long as our grid would be coal dominated, then the emissions from EVs would remain to be very high. And if you see the reality, then today, even today in 2020, EVs are more polluting than a petrol vehicle. Okay, so thinking that EVs will actually help us solve the environmental emission problems is not really true, and that won't be true as long as we continue to rely on fossil fuels for our power generation. And now here was the analysis that we did for all 11 kinds of power generation possibilities that India might have in 2031-32. So here if you see, if India continues with the trend of having coal dominated generation, then by 2030-31 the emission from a typical EV with a capacity of around 120 horsepower would be 180 uh, 180 grams per kilometer, which is actually pretty high. Okay, so now to make sure that we have a scenario where we are going to have a environment friendly vehicle, then we must actually go towards the generation scenario of 11, where the um, contribution of fossil fuel or the coal based generation is around 30%, and there is a lot of renewable involved in it. Then we might come to a figure which is around 121 grams per kilometer, which is still acceptable, though not very great, but still within the acceptable limit. Okay, now here shows some of the emissions, the actual emissions from vehicles which are available in the market. So if you look at this BYD vehicle, so this is a Chinese firm. So here the emissions are, or the energy requirement to drive a kilometer is around 160 watt hour per kilometer. Okay, so that much energy you need to drive 1 kilometer if you have a BYD F3DM vehicle. Okay, now similarly, if you have a BYD E6 vehicle which has a 200 kilowatt motor, then you need around 175 watt hour per kilometer. But on the other hand, if you have a Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, okay, it needs only 62 watt hour to drive 1 kilometer. So now you see here, even among the EVs, the amount of energy that is needed to drive a kilometer is very different. So if you have a very highly optimized system like Toyota has, okay, so that's around 62 watt hour per kilometer. Now the most famous one, Tesla Roadstar, needs around 231 kilowatt hour per kilometer, 231 watt hour per kilometer. Okay, so this happens because of the reason that that car is not optimized for performance. Okay, that car is actually designed for not designed for maximum efficiency, but it's designed for maximum performance. So it consumes a lot of energy when it has to drive a kilometer. So you see, even among EV there is a wide variation, and it's very much similar to the scenario that we have for the ICE vehicles. But now the important thing, or the major goal for going towards EV, is to actually make sure that we have less of emissions and to make them more environment friendly. Now to make them more environment friendly, the only way is that we need to integrate more of solar energy into the EV charging system. Now here what you see is a solar charging station which was actually developed by Honda, and it's a hybrid charging station. So by hybrid I mean that it can take energy from the grid and also from the solar PV system. So once there is enough solar generation, then it takes almost no power from the grid, and when the solar generation is low, then it takes power from the grid to charge the vehicles. And now it also has a backup storage system. Okay, so there are certain kinds of batteries like the flow batteries which can actually store huge amount of power or huge amount of energy. So whenever there is a lot of PV generation but there is no taker, there is no car to charge, then all the excess power generation is actually stored on those big large capacity batteries. And whenever the car comes for charging, so the energy from the battery is also used. Moreover, in these kind of charging scenarios, uh, when the grid is under less stress, when the load on the grid is low, maybe after midnight, okay, so all the excess power available in the grid can also be taken up by those large batteries, and they can be charged, so that once during the daytime and on a cloudy day when the power generation from solar would be low and the grid would be stressed, so then the energy which is stored in the battery during the night can be used to charge the vehicle. So these kind of hybrid concepts of chargers if we use, then we can make sure that the impact of driving an EV on the environment can be reduced. So this is one concept which is actually developed by Honda. And here the next beautiful concept which is developed here again, it's again in Japan. So in Japan, actually, they are planning to go for a hydrogen-based economy. So they are also betting that maybe fuel cells will be an important source for driving the vehicles. Okay. So now, if they are planning to use more of hydrogen-based fuel cells, so in that case, then it becomes necessary that they use more of solar power generation to create the hydrogen, because electrolysis of water is an energy intense process. If you use grid electricity, which is again mostly fossil fuel based, then using hydrogen based fuel cells won't be a good solution. So for that purpose, a technology is under demonstration where a solar concentrator plant is used to produce hydrogen. Okay, but here the problem is that they don't use electrolysis of water, but rather they use methane to produce hydrogen. So at the end of the day, even this plant also depends on fossil fuel. So methane is a fossil fuel. So if we use methane to produce hydrogen, we are not actually going to reduce the emissions drastically. Of course, methane is a much cleaner fuel than petrol or diesel. That's for sure. Okay. And to mitigate the impact of creating hydrogen out of methane using grid electricity, they have substituted it with a solar concentration plant, which is good. So eventually, if you drive a vehicle from the hydrogen produced by this plant, you would be marginally better than an internal combustion engine vehicle which uses either petrol or diesel. So these are some of the technologies which are being developed. Now, apart from that, mostly the European initiatives have been to actually pave the roads with solar panels. Okay, so in France and in Netherlands, they have come up with solar panels or the modules which can be actually integrated to the road surface, so they are sturdy enough and they are strong enough that they can take the weight of the vehicles without getting damaged or without having scratches and so on. Okay, so now if you have highways which actually stretch for hundreds of kilometers and they are exposed to sun, so it can actually produce a large amount of electricity. So a sample highway or a sample test road is actually developed in a small village in France. Okay, and it's an observatory where people are testing such kind of technology to see whether it makes really sense to pave the highways with solar panels, and then it can produce a lot of electricity, and all the highway charges that we would have can be fed through these kind of solar panels. So that will again make highway driving of electric vehicles very environment friendly. So it's an experimental thing. Maybe if it succeeds, then in 15-20 years this might become a technology, at least in European nations, for generating electricity on a large scale and sustaining the transportation on renewable sources. So to have as much energy from renewable sources to charge the electric vehicles as possible. So this might go a long way. And also there was another thing which is about the dynamic charging. So most of the people when they drive on highways, then they have the range anxiety that whether will I have the chance of running my vehicle for 200 or 300 kilometers even without creating the disruption in the charge. So usually before going on a highway ride, people are worried that can I go for 300-400 kilometers without any difficulty? Will I have a charging station? And if I have a charging station, then will it be a fast charging station? Will the fast charging station have an empty slot whenever I need? So these kind of questions start to come to our mind, and they can all be actually addressed if we have this kind of a dynamic charging. So in case of dynamic charging, the plan is that the road surface, beneath the road surface, we would have coils, okay, inductive coils at regular intervals. So when you are driving, and as soon as you feel that your state of charge is going down, or you need more top up energy, so in that case what you can do is you can activate your charging system, and the inductive coil on the road surface and one more coil at the bottom of the chassis of your car will come into action, and they would keep on charging your battery while you are driving. Okay, so in that case you don't need to slow down, you don't need to go to a charging station, you don't need to worry about the range. So all those problems can be addressed. And the inductive coils, which will be used for charging, can be powered by solar PV panels which are laid across the road. So this can be a sustainable solution. And here, even some big companies which are involved conventionally in computing chips or computer chips like Qualcomm are involved in developing the technology. So this looks like a promising future if we can integrate the solar PV panels on road and also have inductive charger systems laid along the roads, then the issue of range anxiety is not there. Moreover, you don't even need to have a big battery in your car. You can also do with a small battery. So that will again reduce the cost of the entire vehicle. So if you see a typical EV today, an electric car, a sedan, if you look into an electric sedan, then around 40% of the cost of the vehicle is the battery. Okay, so if 40% of the cost of the vehicle is battery, then there is a problem. So in that case we need to make sure that the size of the battery is smaller, and that can be achieved if we can have such kind of systems embedded on our roads. So they will not only reduce the range anxiety, but they will also make sure that more and more renewable energy gets integrated into the system. And apart from that, there has been one more system, which is the flexible solar PV panels. So some companies are trying to make the bodies of the vehicles, okay, integrated with such kind of panels. Since these are flexible panels, so you can twist and turn them and give them any shape, and they can be integrated onto the exterior surface of the vehicles, and that can produce a good amount of electricity, maybe not enough to meet all the driving requirements, but enough to meet the cooling requirements. Because if you see, the air conditioning load in an electric vehicle will be around 20 to 25% of what you need to drive the vehicle. So in such a scenario, if you can meet the air conditioning loads with the help of solar PV panels, then actually you are putting less burden on the battery, and the energy in the battery can be used to drive and not to cool the vehicle. So these are again some of the new ideas that people are coming up, and they are looking into the viabilities and the various options that this kind of technology can give to people. So this is some of the idea and new concepts which are coming up, which are still in the research stage, but are there are actual working prototypes of each one of them available throughout the world. So this was a brief introduction which I wanted to give you, and